Hello, all of you vaingloriously wonderful people. Welcome back to my $1 billion GTA Online Garage Tour. Today, we are once again joining my second character, this time in his Vinewood Car Club Garage, to take a look at 10 cars from Annis and Fathom. Then we'll switch over to my first character and take a look at 2 more cars from Annis. Let's get started. I can think of no more perfect car to start with than the preeminent Elegy RH8. This car reigned supreme at the top of the sports class for years thanks to its impressive acceleration, cornering grip, and overall composure. About the only thing it really lacks is comparable braking, but who needs brakes when you have huge amounts of grip in the corners? Better still, nearly everyone can get this car for free these days, as it only requires you to be registered on Rockstar Social Club. Unfortunately, the Elegy has suffered the same fate as the real-life car it is based on and has not received any significant changes over the years. There is only so much that can be done with a platform that was state-of-the-art 20 years ago, so the Elegy now sits further down the order in the sports class. Still, if you want a chance to experience what was the pinnacle of sports car racing in GTA for years, pick up an Elegy and get it on a track. So you picked up a free sports car that was once at the top of the pack and you think to yourself, gee, if only I could spend nearly $1 million and make this car slightly worse in every single way. Then the Elegy Retro Custom is your car. Take your otherwise perfect Elegy to Benny's or other mechanic who can do custom upgrades and drop $904,000 into it to get the Elegy Retro Custom. Sure, this car holds a special place in many people's hearts given its real-life inspiration, the Nissan Skyline R34. And I totally get that. I do love mine as well. But in terms of performance, the so-called upgrade actually downgrades every single performance metric except for braking. And that's a shame, really, because something with iconic real-world inspiration deserves much better. I suppose the real performance upgrades were the friends we made along the way, or something like that. It's difficult to really pinpoint the moment in time when Annis decided to stop being serious about their Z cars and just decided to phone it in. Sure, the 300R looks brand new, but is it really though? Its real-life inspiration, the Nissan Z, is allegedly on its 7th generation. But aside from the body and interior, most of the important bits were carried over from the previous generation 370Z. So how does that translate to GTA Online? Well, it doesn't because this is a game, obviously. But the 300R just barely beats the Euros in lap times, largely in part to quicker upshifts and more engine power. So I guess we gotta give one to Rockstar for not copying that real-world car too closely. And that brings us to the Annis Euros. With the number of customization options rivaling even the lowriders, the Euros can be turned into everything from a daily driver, street tuner, or even track day car. I especially appreciate the options to make some visual modifications under the hood. Sure, none of those parts actually changes the performance in any way, but it is nice to see a bit of detail when the hood is open. You can even shell out an extra $200,000 to turn it into a full-on drift car. And of course it has a handful of liveries that take inspiration from cars featured in the plethora of Fast and Furious franchise of films. The only downside is that it languishes in the sports class. If this was placed into the proper class, coupes, it would be fairly competitive against the top tier cars. Instead, it does languish way down near the bottom half of the sports class. Speaking of disappointments, that is what I named my Annis ZR380 from Arena War, Disappointment. I own this one on my first character and store it appropriately in my Arena Workshop garage. When this thing dropped, I was kind of excited to have a proper Z car in the game. I knew that a lot of the Arena War cars could be modified to appear mostly stock, so I bought the ZR380 and was immediately disappointed that there is absolutely no way to remove the armor around the windshield, the nets on the door windows, or many of the other things that make it decidedly not stock. In my disappointment, I painted it the most hideous color scheme I could think of and parked it. When I finally decided to try it out in some Arena War game modes, I was disappointed by how little damage the hood-mounted guns did, and how often the various ram weapons on the bumper would do more to inflict pain on me instead of my opponents. Yep, this car is nothing but a disappointment. So I'm having this dream. I'm in a Euros X32, and these guys are after me. But they can't catch me. So they get a car. But they can't catch me. So they get a plane. Just as they're about to catch me, the twin turbos kick in. Car commercials in the 90s were weird. Yeah, that was my recreation of the Nissan 300Z commercial that originally aired during the 1990 Super Bowl. I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. It is bizarre. But the Annis Euros X32 with HSW modifications deserved a unique introduction. Finally, we have a car in the proper class. Not only is this properly placed within the Coupes class, but when you have the HSW modifications applied, it leaves everything else in the dust. It is 0.8 of a second faster than the second place Coupe, which unironically is the next car we'll look at today. Even if you do not pay over $1 million to add those HSW upgrades, it is still a fantastic car to drive and still holds its own at the top of the C tier of Coupes. Sure, it's expensive, but given its performance and its long list of visual modifications, it's a car that you want in your collection. And speaking of the car that was knocked into second place in the Coupes class, the Fahtom FR36 is up next. Okay, yeah, I know this isn't an Annis, but hear me out. Annis is roughly equivalent to Nissan, and Nissan is the parent company of Infiniti. And as it turns out, Fathom is pretty much the in-game equivalent of Infiniti. And since this is the only car from Fathom that I own, I am including it with the Annis Tour. This is the second car so far in my collection that features a drift tune option, and it has the visual modifications to match. Of course, you can also stay true to the luxury sports car look as well. And this one is another car that is incredibly nice to drive, whether you're on a track or just hanging out in a lobby. Before we move on to the next 6 vehicles from Annis, I want to remind you that this is only the second video in what will become a pretty long $1 billion garage tour series. If you want to learn a bit more about why I am doing this series now, then be sure to check out the first video in the playlist. I own over 550 vehicles in GTA Online, all worth nearly $1 billion. I am going to feature every last one of them, so if you are a fan of collecting vehicles in GTA Online, then be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss out. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and drop a comment letting me know which car you love or which one you hate. Or maybe just leave an emoji that sums up how you feel about Annis as a car manufacturer in GTA Online. Now, let's get back to the cars. Of all the cars Annis makes in GTA, the Remus is the one I have often wished I could own the real-world counterpart of. Back during my racing days, I almost wound up with a right-hand drive 92 Sylvia, but the deal fell through thanks to a sketchy importer. Shame really, because it would have made for a great track car. But when it comes to the Remus and GTA Online, my only regret is that I shelled out $250,000 to add the drift tune, only to realize I really suck at drifting this car and quickly reverted it back to its standard performance mods. And you know, that's okay. Like a few others we have seen today, the Remus has a long list of visual modifications to really help your car stand out from the crowd. I went with a track day look in white and yellow, the colors of the racing club I once belonged to pay tribute to that dream that never came to pass. Okay, pop quiz time. Name a sports classics car that is more fun to drive flat out in practically all settings than the Annis Savestra. Go ahead and think of one. I'll wait. If you said either of the Vapid Retinue models, yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But they're fun for the same reason the Savestra is. You can drive this thing flat out for days and days and days. It has solid top speed to zip you right along, and when you find a corner, it has so much grip that it just slings right around it. And when you get back on the throttle, the transmission finds the right gear, and the rev-happy little engine is all too eager to get you right back up to speed. And the car looks fantastic the entire time. There aren't really many duds in the Annis lineup, but I really think the Savestra is one of my favorites. And if you want to cause a bit of havoc as you blast down the street, you can spend $100,000 and get a couple of machine guns mounted just below the front bumper. Now we're in my home territory with the Annis Hellion. This is a strange reality for me. In real life, I am far more happy on a racetrack than I am off-roading. But in GTA, I definitely prefer to leave the asphalt behind and venture into more rugged terrain. Granted, if you're looking to power up and down Mount Chiliad, there are far more qualified vehicles than the Hellion. Instead of sheer speed, the Hellion is the perfect go-to when you just want to take things more slowly and enjoy the scenery along the way. That's really the vibe the Hellion is happiest with. If you go much quicker, it has a tendency to want to roll over, and it can become a bit uncomposed when landing faster jumps. So if you want to enjoy some nice, slow rock crawling, or you want to hang out by a small lake in the mountain, the Hellion is the off-roader for you. And now for something completely different, the Annis ZR350. There is no question that Rockstar ventured away from Nissan for inspiration and moved to Mazda instead. This is pretty much an RX-7 with a couple of styling elements carried over from an MX-5. And the Mazda inspiration is not just skin deep. Pop open the hood and you'll find an engine that deviates from all the other Annis cars we've looked at and is, instead, a fairly accurate depiction of a Wankel engine. It certainly is not the quickest sports car around, and it will get even slower if you add on a drift tune. But you know what? It's okay to have some sports cars that are kinda nice to drive and look great, while giving you a big smile knowing a giant Dorito is under the hood providing power. And hey, gamers everywhere love Doritos, right? We jump back over to my first character for our last two cars. This time in the 50 car garage on Eclipse Boulevard, starting with the Annis RE7B. How is it possible that this car has been around for nearly 9 years already? It dropped with the Cunning Stunts DLC in July of 2016. Yeah, that's hard to believe. But the RE7B does continue with real-world inspiration coming from Nissan, but also from Mazda, with it being mostly a mashup of design cues from endurance racing cars from both of those companies. When it first released, the RE7B was buggy, allowing for some insane top speeds. Even without that glitch, it was one of the first four-wheel land vehicles to break the 1 minute lap time. That is thanks to the huge amount of downforce baked right into the car, though that downforce value is also what caused some issues early on. It was even the fastest car in the game when Cunning Stunts arrived. In the ensuing years, a dozen cars have gone around a lap quicker, including the one we'll look at next, dropping the RE7B from king of the class and pushing it down into the B tier of supercars. While it is an incredibly cool car, its $2.5 million price tag and incredibly limited customization options means it is not one you need to rush to acquire. And well, you can't buy it anyway since it was removed for purchase in-game. And we wrap up today's Annis Garage Tour with the S80RR, another car that is no longer available for purchase. Well, unless you know someone who owns it and can talk them into joining you at the Los Santos Car Meet to buy it via the specification service. When it dropped, it managed to eke out a lap time about 0.2 of a second faster than the RE7B. I've owned the S80RR since it arrived with the casino update, but I haven't really spent a lot of time in it. I was far more interested in driving the Thrax, which cost 200 grand less and was a fair bit easier to drive. Still, every time I step foot into this garage, the S80RR always catches my eye, so I'm glad to have it in my collection. And that wraps it up for Annis and my $1 billion garage tour for GTA Online. Next week, we'll head to the nightclub of my first character as we begin the first half of a tour through the next manufacturer, Benefactor. Don't forget, if you enjoyed today's tour of Annis, be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment letting me know which car was your favorite, or which one you absolutely hate. And if you want to see all of the more than 550 vehicles I own, get subscribed with notifications so you don't miss a single video. Until next time, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.